over there. I welcome you once again to our science lesson 14. As usual, we are going to start with our word bank. So our word number 1 here, it is reading as ruminant. This one is a ruminant. What do you know about ruminants? So these are animals that chew cud, that is they agitate the food or the pasture they have eaten earlier on, then later on they bring it back, that is agitation. And these ruminant animals, they have 4 stomachs, or they have 4 chambered stomachs. They have the reticulum, they have the rumen, they have the omasum and the abomasum. And then examples here we can get the goats, the sheep, the cows, the giraffes, the camels, and so on. So our word number 2 here, it's read as trachoma. This is trachoma. So this is a disease which is spread by houseflies and is caused by what we call the chlamydia germ. So to treat this one, we can give that person an antibiotic or antibiotics, especially the tetracycline. This one is the rodent. So rodents are mammals, and these mammals, they have well developed incisor teeth. So their incisors are well developed, and these ones, they chew food rapidly. Then they have well developed claws to dig the ground to get what we call the root bars. And the best example of a rodent, it is the rats. So rats are rodents. Then you have mouse, also you have the beavers. So these ones are rodents. Then these rodents are also called the gnawing mammals. So gnawing, it means that they hit their incisor teeth on hard substances to prevent them from continuous growth. Okay, so here we have this other word. This is lagomorph. Here, this one is lagomorph. So lagomorphs, they are similar to rodents, but the difference is these lagomorphs, for them, they have a well developed cecum. Cecum, what could be our appendix. So for them, they don't have the appendix, so theirs is developed into what we call a cecum. Within the cecum, they have what we call the cellulose bacteria that help them to digest the cellulose. Remember, this cecum is past the colon. So when this food reaches the cecum, it's going to be digested. Then they are going to engate. After engating the droppings, then they are going to eat them in order to get the nutrients from the cellulose they ate. And the best example of the lagomorph, it is the rabbit. So we have rabbits and also the hares. So these mammals are called lagomorphs. So then here in the previous lessons, we looked at metamorphosis, and this one is read as metamorphosis, not metamorphosis. It is metamorphosis. And there are 2 types. We have the incomplete and also the complete. So the complete, this one takes 4 stages, and incomplete here, it takes 3 stages, whereby under 3 stages we have the cockroach. The second stage is called the nymph. Then under the 4 we have the butterflies, houseflies, sassaflies, and so on. So here we are having our next word. This one's read as latrine, and we said from the previous lessons that a latrine is a place for defecation and urination, or a place where human excreta is deposited. And the previous lesson we looked at what we call a toilet being a latrine that needs water to flush the human wastes into the septic tank, which is emptied by what we call a cesspool emptier. Alright, so this one's a rack. So this one said as a rack. So this is a material or an object where we put our utensils after washing them. So we put them there to keep them away from contamination and to protect them from getting broken or from breakages. Then this rack is one of the components of sanitation. Remember, we discussed it and we said elements of sanitation, we have to be the rack, a bathroom, a latrine, a kitchen, and so on. So here we have our word convection. Convection. What is convection? So convection is the process by which heat travels through liquids and gases. For example, this is our saucepan we are having water and we are boiling. So these arrows are showing heat. So heat is going to pass through the saucepan by the process called conduction, because the saucepan is a solid. Then on reaching here, this water down is going to be heated up. Now when it is heated, it's now going to rise up. As it rises up, then this cold one comes down, also gets heated up, then it goes up, then this one comes. Now these movements, see, these arrows are showing what we call the convection current. Then this process by which all this entire liquid is going to get heated up, the process is called convection. So convection is the process by which heat travels through liquids and gases. Lastly, we are having a word condensation. So it is not condensation, the word is condensation. So this is the process by which a liquid turns into a gas. For example, we are boiling our water here, so the water is boiling by the process of convection, then it's going to turn into vapor. Now this is what we call evaporation. Then if we get a plate and we put it over this steam, maybe this plate has cold water, then when this vapor reaches this plate, is now going to turn into a liquid. So that process is what we call condensation. So condensation is the process by which a liquid changes into a gas. So our words for today, we have condensation, latrine, rodent, trachoma, metamorphosis, convection, rack, lagomorph, and ruminant. So I think you've written them in your book. Let us proceed to the diagram for today. Alright, so today we are going to look at the an item we normally find in our houses, and this item is called a thermos flask. Thermos flask. So thermos from the word heat. So this thermos flask can also be called a vacuum flask. It can also be called a vacuum flask. So its importance at home is to keep hot things hot. It keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. So it keeps hot and cold cold. Now you may wonder, what are those ones? What are those vacuums that keep cold things cold? For example, these vacuums, they use to preserve vaccines. Remember, vaccines are kept in coldness. Then those flasks, they are keeping them cold, so they keep cold things cold and hot things hot. If it is keeping hot, it keeps them hot throughout. If they are keeping cold, they keep them cold. So a vacuum flask keeps hot things hot and cold substances cold. So these vacuum flasks, they have let us look at the parts that make up a vacuum flask. If I'm to draw, let me start with this drawing here. Now I'm drawing here like this one, then I also bring this like this here. Now when you look at this one, this is what we call a vacuum seal here, and again this space you are seeing within here, it is what we call a vacuum. Remember, from matter, we said a vacuum is a place without matter, without anything. There is no solid, no liquid, no neither a gas. So that is a vacuum. And then this one is a wall, but this wall is silvered. So this is a silvered wall. Even this one is also a silvered wall. So there are two double silvered walls there. Then again, at the top here, I'm going to put this, and this one is what we call a cork. That one's called a cork. If I can put it in a metal case, just like this one, I draw my metal case all over, then it's going to be with this soft pad. This one is a soft pad, then this is the outer covering, the metal case, and then this metal case has the cap, then it has the handle. Now this one is the handle, this one is the cap. So this cap is used to take what is in the flask. Okay, so let us first go back here and see how this flask works. So this flask, it keeps hot things hot. Now how does that one how is it maintained? So it has the slivered walls. They are slivered, meaning that they are shiny. From heat energy, from primary 5, we said all the polished surfaces, they reflect heat. Now as a heat is trying to escape from this liquid here, it's now going to be reflected back. So the silvered walls prevent heat loss by reflecting it back into the liquid within the flask here. Then if this liquid wants to pass through the cork here, this cork is made of insulators. So a cork is an insulator. It will not allow heat loss by conduction, because it is a what, a solid. Therefore it will prevent heat by not allowing the process of conduction to take place. Remember, conduction is the process by which this heat passes through a solid. Because this one is an insulator, then conduction will not take place. Once it does not take place, heat will be maintained within the liquid here. Then again we have a vacuum. So this vacuum also is very important. How it prevents heat loss. How? By preventing the process of radiation to take place, radiation, convection, and also conduction. So this vacuum flask prevents heat loss by preventing radiation, convection, and conduction to do what? To take place. And this vacuum seal here, it prevents any matter from entering into a vacuum, because once it gets a small crack, then water will start to enter, air will start to enter. Then once those ones start to enter, then they will be over the walls here. Then they try to absorb some heat from the liquid. Thus, then the temperature of this liquid will do what? Reduce. So a vacuum seal is there to prevent any matter, because if any matter enters here, then we shall now see heat loss by the matter within a vacuum. So a vacuum is a place or a space without matter, and a vacuum within a vacuum flask prevents heat loss by preventing radiation, convection, and conduction from taking place. Alright, so these vacuum flasks are not commonly found in homes. Why? They are expensive. They are expensive to afford, and also they are so delicate. You can buy it today expensively, then it gets broken. So that's why they are not commonly found in our homes there. So you can compare what I've done here with this one. So this space here, it is what we've called the vacuum. That one is the vacuum. And then let me get this color here. So the space here, this one is the vacuum, and then this one is the vacuum seal, preventing any matter from entering. Now this is the cork base or the soft pad. Then this one is our cork, and we've said this cork is made out of insulators like wood, rubber. So out of wood, out of rubber, or the plastic. Why? These ones are insulators, they don't allow heat loss. And now this is the cap, and this cap is used to take what is in the vacuum flask. Then this one is a silvered wall, and here it's also a silvered wall. So that is, we can call this one also the double silvered wall or silvered walls. They prevent heat loss by reflecting it back into the substance. Then this is the metal case protecting the vacuum from getting broken, because it is delicate, it is breakable. Alright, so that is all about the vacuum flask. I think you've now remembered how to draw, to name, and how important is this flask at home. So let us move on to our lesson for today. So today we are now opening up our new topic here, and this topic, the theme is the human body. Then we are going to look at the human body. Under the human body, we are going to look at what we call the reproductive system. Then under that reproductive system, we are going to start with what we call reproduction. Remember from our first time when we are looking at classification of living things, we said living things have various characteristics, as in one, we said living things reproduce, and we said, why do they reproduce? They reproduce in order to increase in what? In number. So living things reproduce in order to increase in number. Therefore, we are now going to look at reproduction into details. So we are going to start by understanding what reproduction is. But before going there, we have to meet words like offspring. So when I say offspring, what comes into your minds? This one is going to be the young one. Then if I talk of gametes, we are also going to find that word there, gamete. So what is a gamete? This one is going to be the reproductive cell. Still, if we go back, we make a flashback. We said the origin of life is a cell. So there are cells that start life, and which cells are these? They are going to be reproductive what? Cells. Therefore, let us come to now to the definition here. So reproduction is the process by which living organisms, so this is the process by which living things or living organisms give rise. So to give rise, it means to produce. They produce. So they give rise to offsprings similar to them. So this word is very important, similar to them. It's like saying a tomato cannot produce a boy. No. So a tomato give rise to a tomato, as well as a dog produces a dog. A lion produces a lion, not a fish. So that's what it means. That's why I'm saying this one is very, very important. Living organisms giving rise to offsprings are similar to them. So reproduction is the process by which living organisms give rise or produce young ones or offsprings that are similar to them. Okay, so let us look at different living organisms and their reproduction. If we start with the pigs, under pigs we have the female pig, which is called a sow. Then when it is giving rise to offsprings, when it is giving birth with producing young ones, we say it is following. So a sow farrows. Then when we go to the rabbits, and a female rabbit is called a doe. Then this doe is going to kindle. So this is called the kindling. So this is the act of producing kittens by a rabbit. And which rabbit is that one? A doe. Then others follow, those are pigs. Then when we go to a sheep, so the female sheep is called a female sheep is called a research. In the next lesson I need that answer. So that female sheep is going to carry out lambing. So so someone has said to save you. Okay, no, find out that one. So when we go to the cows, the female cow, the cows, those are heifers, in calf heifers. For them they carry out parturition. So parturition or calving. So calving is the act of producing calves by a cow or a heifer. Then lambing is the act of giving or producing lambs by a what? By a ewe. Okay, so this is a female sheep. Then kindling is the act of producing kittens by a doe. Then farrowing is the act of producing or giving rise to piglets by a sow. And then we have kidding. So this kidding is done by a nanny. And what's a nanny? A nanny is a female mature goat. So kidding, parturition, lambing, kindling, following, these are the terminologies we use when we are referring to reproduction in different animals. Okay, so a reflection, we said reproduction is a process by which living organisms give rise to offspring similar to them. Alright, so from there let us look at what we call types of reproduction. So we have two types of reproduction. One, there is what we call sexual reproduction, and two, there is what we call asexual reproduction. So we are going to start with what we call sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction here, this is the type of reproduction that involves gametes. So it is a type of reproduction that involves what we call gametes. Okay, let us get here another chalkboard and we see this one clearly. Let me hope that we are still together. You've given me your attention, so thank you for choosing Good Choice Schools. Together we can, divided we fall. In God we trust. Alright, so we are looking at the types of reproduction, and we said there are two. We said there is what we call asexual reproduction, and also there is what we call asexual reproduction. So let us start with what we call sexual reproduction. So with the sexual reproduction here, this is the type of reproduction that involves what we call the gametes. Then we've said, earlier on we said a gamete is a reproductive what? A reproductive cell, and therefore gametes. So we have two in animals and we have two in plants. So in animals, we have the male gamete and also the female gamete. So the male gamete in any animal, let it be an insect, let it be a bird, let it be, so long as it's an animal, so the male gamete is called a sperm. Then female gamete is called an ovum. When there are very many, we call them the ova. So where we are going, we shall see the detailed structure of a sperm and of that of the ovum. Then when we go to plants, because even plants they have what we call sexual reproduction. So the male gamete in plants, that is the pollen grain. Then in in the female ones, that is, all those ones are called the ovules. So ovules match with the ovum, then sperms match with the pollen grains. So this is a common question in exams. How is a sperm similar to pollen grains? So both are male gametes. So the male gamete in an animal, in a male animal, it is a sperm. So ovum for female animal, then pollen grains for plants male, and ovules for plants female. So this type of reproduction where we see these gametes getting involved is called sexual reproduction. Okay, so from them again we have these animals that are hermaphrodites. So we have animals that are said to be bisexual, so we call them hermaphrodites. So these are the animals with both sexual organs. So they have both sexual organs. So such examples, we have the snails, then we have the tapeworms. That's why they survive in our intestines, so they don't need mates, so they can multiply. So they are bisexual or they are hermaphrodites. Then we also have what we call the earthworms. So these ones are hermaphrodites. Alright, so from there, now let us move on and see what we call asexual reproduction. So if this one involves gametes, then asexual reproduction is the type of reproduction that does not involve. So for it, does not involve what we call gametes. So asexual reproduction does not involve gametes. So here with asexual reproduction, just a part of an organism results into a new offspring. So just part of an organism develops into a new individual. Okay, let us get here another chalkboard. So just a part of an organism develops into a new individual. So let us take some examples of asexual reproduction and we understand this. So the best example we are going to take what we call the binary fission. So binary fission, this means that it is dividing into two, and this one is commonly seen in our bacteria. So in the bacteria or in a bacterium, this is a bacterium, then it has the nucleus. Then when it is to reproduce, when it is having necessary conditions, then it's now going to divide itself into two. So it is going to have this one and this, then eventually we get this young one and this one. So this is what we call binary fission. Now these are what we call the daughter cells or the new individuals. So here we don't see any gamete getting involved, just this organism dividing itself into two to produce other new offsprings. So this is binary fission. Then apart from that one, we have what we call budding in yeast. So yeast, this is yeast, then this yeast will just get other buds. This is a bud, then this bud produces another bud, then this one produces this one, then this one, then this one develops into this one. So all these ones are buds and this is called budding. Then apart from yeast, we also have what we call the hydra. Also hydra reproduces by means of budding. Okay, so from that one, the budding, we also have what we call a vegetative propagation. There is what we call vegetative propagation. So even this one in plants, so this one is also under what we call asexual reproduction. Then vegetative propagation, we are seeing a part of a plant, getting developing into a new individual. So this vegetative propagation, we divide it into two. There is what we call natural vegetative propagation and also artificial vegetative propagation. Now when we look at natural vegetative propagation, this is by means of bulbs. This is planting the stem cuttings. Here, planting rhizomes in case of the ginger, if remember from our classification of plants, then planting the culms, then planting the leaves of the borophyllum. We have that plant called borophyllum, so it is just propagated by means of leaves. So all these ones are natural vegetative propagation, even by means of suckers, even means of crowns. So all these ones are natural vegetative propagation. But again, what I'm going to dwell at today it is what we call the artificial vegetative propagation. Artificial vegetative propagation. Now here it is man aiding in the propagation, in the reproduction of these plants. And now these vegetative propagation artificial methods: one, there is what we call budding; two, there is what we call grafting, as we discussed in our classification of plants. Then again there is what we call marketing. There is marketing, and also we have what we call layering, and also stem cuttings. So stem cuttings, layering, marketing, grafting, and budding, these ones are the examples of artificial vegetative propagation. So when you go to grafting here, this one is normally seen in citrus fruits like orange and lemon. So this one can be the lemon plant, then this one can be the orange plant with the leaves. So what we do, we chop off this shoot and we remove also this shoot. So we get this shoot and put it all over. This one is the stalk. This one is the stalk for the lemon, and then this shoot from the orange here is now called the scion. Then you wrap here, then as it is growing, then it's going to grow as one combined plant. So we have gotten a new individual, but we have not used any gamete. We have just used a part of a plant to do what? To produce another offspring. That's what we call vegetative propagation or asexual reproduction. My dear learner, we've said reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce or give rise to young ones or offspring similar to them. There are two types of reproduction: sexual and asexual. Sexual involves gametes, and we've said a gamete is a reproductive cell, whereby we've said sperms are male gametes in animals, whereas ova or ovum is the female gamete in female animals. And again we've said pollen grains, they match with the ovules in plants. Then again we've said asexual reproduction does not involve gametes, and examples we've said binary fission in bacteria, we have budding in yeast and hydra. Then vegetative propagation, where we have natural vegetative propagation by means of bulbs, rhizomes, combs, stem tubers, planting leaves of double phylum, suckers, crowns, slips, and so on. Then artificial vegetative propagation, we have the budding, the grafting, marketing, layering, and stem cutting. So these ones we discussed them earlier on in our classification of plants. So let us take the advantages of artificial vegetative propagation. One, it is quick. This one, it is quick because there is no resting periods like in seeds, like in these other methods of propagation. And number two, the young ones are similar to the mother plant or the parent. So the young ones are identical, meaning that the genetic matter or the genetic characters are maintained. And three, the offsprings feed directly on the food made by the plant. Alright, so let us go into our assignment for today. Number one, define the term reproduction. Define the term reproduction. Number two, mention the two types of reproduction. The two types of reproduction. Number three, state the difference. State the difference between sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. And asexual reproduction. And then number four here, what does the term kindling mean? Number five, how important is reproduction? Is reproduction at living organisms? Living organisms. Define a gamete. Define a gamete. Number 7, state two advantages. State two advantages of asexual reproduction. Number 8, mention two examples of bisexual organisms. Bisexual organisms. Number 9, name the male gamete found in plants. Number 10, how useful is at home. Okay, so you've been a good learner. This marks the end of our lesson 14. We meet in the next lesson, carrying on human body reproductive system.